And welcome to this segment of Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls, and as you know, we always like to bring the Terrebonne Parish Council on to talk about issues relating to your parish. And it's going to be a little different this week because normally we have the chairman, Darren Guidry, who's sitting in the same chair he does every week, but this week he's going to be the acting parish president. We also have Mr. Carly Harding, a councilman here in the area, who's going to be the acting vice chair. Jessica Domingue will be the acting chair of the council this week. And you may go, oh, you're confusing me, Martin. It can be a little bit confusing, but it all started with a dinner conversation today, a lunch conversation. I said, well, I'm going to ask them when they come there because we need to learn this because it's important. So I'll turn to the acting parish president. Good to have you, Darren. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having us, Martin.
And the acting vice chair, Carly. Good to have you.
Thank you.
All right. So, with that said, the parish president is out of state. He's out of pocket. And I think the rule is 72 hours, if I remember correctly, that when he's gone for 72 hours, there's a shift. Now, remember, yesteryear, there was a pretty contentious shift. And when Barry Bonvillain, the parish president, was gone over 72 hours, somebody was demanding his key to the office, wanted to go in there and entertain people coming in. I think it's a little more cordial this time. So, Darren, I'll give you the floor. What takes place? Let's use this first segment to educate the public on what takes place.
Well, there is a line of succession according to our home rule charter. If something happens to the parish president, we do not have a vice president, as I'm sure you're aware. So if for some reason the president is incapacitated for 72 hours or more, then the chairman of the council becomes the acting parish president until the parish president is able to come back and resume duties, or in the case that a parish president passes away, until an election is held. And then from the council position, the council vice chair would then become the chairman. So I will be at the council meeting on Wednesday, actually sitting in the administration seat and representing administration. So I actually won't even be representing the council. So that's why Councilman Carl Hardy has joined me today, because he would be the de facto third in line, being our budget and finance chair, if something would happen to, both the parish president, the chair, and the vice chair. And so, Carl thus is acting as vice chair at our next meeting. But there is a line of succession which becomes automatic after 72 hours. Of course, Mr. Dove was proactive with it and, submitted a letter turning over the presidency on a temporary basis to the council chair for the term that he's going to be gone. And might I say, it's a much needed vacation after COVID and everything else we did. I was glad to see him able to take that, and I think it makes all of us much more productive when we come back.
But it's a different, as the rain comes down. I don't know how much people could hear in their own houses while we're on TV. But it does switch. I mean, any kind of declaration, emergency declaration that would take place at this point, whether it be a flood or a tropical storm or whatever, would fall in your hands at this point, wouldn't it?
Exactly. And of course, the goal of a manager is always to put the right people in place and manage your organization to where you're not needed and where it operates, whether you're there or not. And we have that in place in Terrebonne Parish. So it's raining right now and the pumps are being turned on, and emergency things are happening to make sure that the water drains are is able to be removed as quickly as possible. Whether or not somebody is sitting in the parish president's seat or not, that's happening automatic. Now, if there were a tropical storm that was threatening our area suddenly, there would be some emergency declarations that would have to happen. And we have an acting parish president in place that's able to do that, which would fall upon me. But I can guarantee you, if there was a tropical system out in the Gulf, I guarantee you Parish President Dove would be on the first plane back. So, I'm not so much worried about that. We're just keeping the trains running on time until Mr. Dove finishes his much needed rest.
It's the order of business, almost, Carly. You have to keep the order of business in the right perspective. And somebody's got to fill the seats, don't they?
Yeah, and some people will call it a pecking order. But then, as Darren stated earlier, what happens there is that Mr. Dove has to rely on the people that within his administration, the department heads, to take care of their job. And we look at the fact that also in reference to signing ordinances and stuff like that, there's a provision where if the parish president is not available for a signature, there's another designated person to actually give a signature. It doesn't always has to be to him, but then if it came to an opportunity, Mr. Darren would actually be put in that position as in an emergency situation. We will look at our CFOs, our CEOs, and public works directors. All of those folk are experts in their job. So hopefully the well-deserved vacation that he's taken, we don't have any hardships. But then Mr. Guidry, he's well qualified. He's been in the system a lot. Also, I may add that some of the circumstances that may come up is not necessarily say that he would make a full decision for the council or Terrebonne Parish. Is that some ordinances, they have to be approved by the council. And then there are only recommendations coming from who's already there, such as our CEO, CFO, Public Works Director, or whatever.
All right, well, let's hold that thought. There's a good lesson to learn. And I'm sure a lot of people are not aware, believe it or not. And the only reason I really saw the news, I remember a past news story way back when. Good to see it's a little more peaceful this time. Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee. Item 1, Darren, seems to be an interesting one. Has to do with boundary lines between Terrebonne and Lafourche.
Well, we butt up against Terrebonne and Lafourche, and probably one of the areas that's most evident is the Bayou Blue Road, where one side of the road is Lafourche, one side is Terrebonne. So we have some issues to where water services are maybe provided by Lafourche or Terrebonne, or different other type of parish services because they happen to be on the border, so you have agreements in those areas.
I'm sure Pointe-aux-Chenes with drainage and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the Burglar Rose Highway is one of those areas where the boundary lines back from the old descriptions when the 1800s and such may not be as clear as they are today. They didn't have GPS, satellite GPS. And so there is a landowner that owns a tract of property right on the board on the Burglar Rose Highway. And he wants to develop the property. And so if he develops the property in its homes, for instance, whose homes would they be in? Terrebonne? Would there be a voter in Terrebonne? Would they be a taxpayer in Terrebonne and Lafourche? So what administration is doing is we're requesting to hire a surveyor to actually survey the area and then work it out between Terrebonne and Lafourche, so we actually have an agreement that says this is our borderline.
What happens if it's half and half?
And it's possible. It just means that half of that development would be in one parish and half would be in the other. But you need to figure out which properties are what.
But does the developer pay the permitting fees in Terrebonne or Lafourche? I guess it all has to be worked out.
It's interesting. And then, really who provides the utilities, and, who provides the water and, electricity and sewer. And,
I'm sure utilities would have to sit down and come up to some kind of cooperation, Carly, with who would do what.
Yeah, and it's an agreement between Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche that they want to find out. So the assumption would be that they would share the cost of that. Highway 316, we have some folk that go in Lafourche Parish to schools, and other folk that will go to Terrebonne Parish schools. So it's something that could be simple to be worked out. I'm pretty sure such as energy costs, or how everything is already laid out to who owns the electrical services and water services. I'm pretty sure that can be worked out. But this is an agreement that Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche Parish, I guess for just formalities and preciseness, to find out who's where and what. So it's better government anyway. Yeah.
Darren, let me ask you this. So when you're hiring a surveying crew in Terrebonne, they do it one way, and Lafourche, they'll do it similar way, because you got to do it with professional services. But who gets a nod? Is it a Terrebonne surveyor? Is it a Lafourche surveyor? Is that just what this is all about, the negotiation to just find a surveyor.
But not only that, government as it goes, you know what I mean? You want to do things with the lowest bidder and things like that. So even the working that is to be done, there's been an agreement between Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche Parish to actually find the best case scenario. I wouldn't say at the cheapest way to do it, but then yes, the more formal way of doing things.
But if you have 6 people interested in doing it, and 3 from Lafourche and 3 from Terrebonne, so be it.
Well, I'm friendly with the people from
Yeah,
Lafourche.
I understand. Yeah, I was born in Lafourche. Everybody. Yeah. But no, I'm just saying, just for learning purposes. So this is a wide open discussion. I don't know if I've heard of this too many times. Darren, have you heard of this happening a lot, where something is right on the cusp of parishes?
Yeah, I'm sure it happens, more than in parishes and everything else. I mean, we hear about the things internationally about whether Taiwan is a part of China, right. But there are a long time ago things were described. Sometimes it might be from a particular landmark that doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, now we have to go back, especially in an area that was, a wooded and undeveloped when it was originally surveyed. And normally there's a boundary like a river line, but even that can be a problem if a river changes course. Mm-hmm. So it is done regularly in situations like this, where a developer wants to develop that particular piece of property, and it's in the best interest for the governments. Like we would work together with Lafourche, and if the development's going to span the 2 parishes, then you work together, you split the costs, and you accept whatever the surveyor says.
And I know one thing, and I think y'all both would agree: any surveyor that really gets his job, they are so attuned, especially with the changing lands in Terrebonne and Lafourche. We have some of the best surveyors around. It's not like in other areas where the land doesn't move. They're pretty astute at following land laws and everything else. So I'd put those surveyors up, and we're going to follow this one because that's interesting. Who gets the taxes? Who gets the sales? This is I love this kind of story because you can learn from it. We got some interesting things to discuss. Item 8C is an ordinance to amend Section 4.4 of the Terrebonne Parish Code to allow permitted organizations to sell alcohol at permitted events. And Darren, let me start with you, because when you go into this, I think there's rules, so many feet that a bar can be from a school, but then I think some of the schools have fairs, and they may or may not want to sell beverages. It changes everything, doesn't it?
Correct. Well, subsequent to the bishop many years ago doing away with fairs and festivals, an ordinance was passed by a previous council. And I think the impetus of that ordinance was to prevent a bar from locating within 300 feet of a school, library, church, or playground. And it was needed at the time to prevent a bar from establishing there, but at the same time, the problem now exists that some of the schools may bring back their church fairs, in which case they want to be able to have those fairs on the grounds of their school. And so the ordinance is being changed. The public hearing is at the council meeting on Wednesday night, and it will be to allow the permitting during special events for these areas. And it has to be approved by the parish president and the chairman of the parish council jointly. Mm-hmm. So a parish president can't do it by themselves. So it'll be used with extreme caution, but it's done specifically for church and special events to be able to.
But I would think, I'm just thinking out the box here, that if a church wants to have alcohol at their fairs, I know South Louisiana, everybody likes to have a good time, but they sort of giving up a little bit of their authority. If somebody wants to start a bar down the road, they might have to say, well, we can't have it both ways, so they might have to be flexible.
Well, actually, a bar, this new ordinance will still prevent any bar or institution from locating within 300 feet. Okay. It has to be a permitted event, a special event permit, and it's at the subject of the parish president and the chairman. If we don't think this event's going to benefit Terrebonne Parish and the people, it says may. It doesn't say we automatically have
No
to
shall,
permit
it
them.
doesn't say shall. Yeah, it says may. Yeah.
You know, so we do not have to permit an event if we feel it's not in the public interest.
Okay, good point. Let's move to Coralie. You know, I've been noticing, you know, it seems like some of the bayou areas doing really well with getting debris out. Others have a little more challenge or quagmires or, you know, trying to move equipment in and out. Any concerns you have? I saw you were on 7A to discuss possible action regarding dredging and debris removal from Bayou Terrebonne and other canals.
Yeah, and we are promoting, like the previous topic, we're saying that, you know, the public is invited. That's why we have public hearings and stuff like that. A lot of times people may not look at what we do. I know you do a great job in promoting all our meetings and stuff like that, but somehow or another people don't get the real actual thing and what we have to go through to get some things done. We look at Bayou Terrebonne, it involves federal, it involves state, it involves local, it involves private. And we're looking at if we can compare Bayou Terrebonne to Bayou Black. We're looking at if we're going to actually get the debris out of the bayou, you know what I mean? That's one contract or circumstance. If we had to dredge the bayou, that's another circumstance. And between, let's say, for instance, the northern end of the parish going all the way to the end of the coastal, we have 50 bridges. And out of those 50 bridges, we have to have at market value opportunity to go in and service the project that's actually going on. And that seems to be the most difficult part of it, is actually getting the right of ways to go in to get that. And we're looking at funding, compare that to Bayou Terrebonne, Bayou Black. Bayou Black previously already had in place certain stipulations in reference to right-of-ways. That's why Bayou Black had the opportunity to be cleared out much easier than what would be with Terrebonne Bayou.
And that's a great point because you've got to have a servitude or right-of-way to get the equipment in the bayous, and if all the bayous are different, it's problematic.
It's problematic. Yeah, we've been having conversations about that. We're trying to explain everything, why it seems to be taking such a long time. And we're trying to use this opportunity to get people to come in, express their desires, participate in the government, find out questions, give a little more length of time, because that's why it's not someone bringing it to us. I decided to actually have this placed as agenda item, whereas, well, we have an opportunity to hear from the public. And then those questions that can be answered by the necessary people through our administration, we can answer those questions. Or we find out we can't do that, we can actually make the proper adjustments so we can serve the people.
All right. I appreciate you all coming on. A different scenario this week in Terrebonne Parish with the parish president being gone for 72 hours. We have Mr. Darren Guidry will be the acting parish president. You'll see that. Don't be confused. Mr. Carly Horton will be in the vice chair seat. Miss Jessica Domain will be in the chair seat for the council. So once again, nobody panic. Hasn't been a coup in Terrebonne Parish. It's just been they're going in confirmation with the laws of Terrebonne Parish, and that's the way it reads. Thank you all so much for coming on a very rainy day in Terrebonne Parish, and look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Thank you.
Great seeing you too, man.
All right, thank you. All right. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.